As the days get shorter and the nights grow longer, and at this time of the year, the world can seemingly become a lot darker place. And what better time to take a look at 5 creepy encounters that'll keep you up all night. Number 1. When I was 16 years old, I came face to face with a pair of big, bright orange eyes. Whatever it was that I saw seemed to be a large owl, but all I saw was the darkness surrounding the eyes. This happened in the middle of the night, at my friend's house, as 3 of us were returning from sneaking out of the house. I was the last one to climb back in through the first story window of my friend's house. And when I turned to close the window, something with orange eyes was staring right at me, no more than 2 feet away. The eye contact between us lasted maybe 3 seconds, but I'm not sure how the eye contact broke. Whatever it was, it had a paralysing effect, putting my 2 friends to sleep right away and putting me to sleep soon after. This was around 10 years ago, and I never really put that much deep thought into it until recently. But now that I think about it, it really freaks me out. Number 2. I live in Tennessee, and I think something is going on. I've been having these weird incidents and things happening to me. It all started a few weeks ago. The weather's been getting to that point where we see more and more creatures moving back in. But I think this time, something has come back with them. I have braces, so every night I have to go out to the back porch to use the water pick after brushing my teeth. When I notice something, I don't know, off I guess. I live next to a smallish creek, so every night we get the usual bugs and frogs, but it wasn't there. It was like someone had turned the volume to 0 on noise-cancelling headphones. I was standing there when I noticed it. For context, the way the tree line is, it surrounds the field next to my backyard in an almost crescent shape, so it's pitch black when there's no moonlight. But anyway, as I was standing there, I saw something. Barely there for a second before it backed into the trees. It was fairly large from where I was standing, stark white and slow. I just thought it was my eyes playing tricks on me, and I walked back inside and turned the lights out and went to bed. But these last 2 weeks, I don't know, it's like everything took a step in the wrong direction. There's been a whole bunch of weird shit, but I'll give the 3 that brought me here. 1. I took my dogs out for the last time that night, and the first thing my husky mix did was take off after something under the porch. I heard him running after it, and he came back fine, but when I went to bed, I think I saw whatever the fuck it was. There was like this half face outside my window, peeking in through the blinds. It slipped off to God knows where, but I still didn't sleep. I kept looking at my window. 2. I was taking the trash out, maybe 2 nights ago, and my garage door was open. But just as I pressed the button to close it, I saw this massive thing peeking around the corner. I ran back inside and locked both doors. The worst part is, my garage door is 7 feet tall. This thing's head was at the top. 3. The reason I'm here asking for help. I think something's ramping up because of what I saw tonight. I went out to do the water pick again, and just as I turned around, I noticed that it was silent again. It was quiet for about a minute until I heard the buzzing sound. It was weird, like it was getting louder. But then I turned around to turn off the porch light, and there they were. 2 human-shaped heads looking right at me. I didn't even stop to look at them. I just ran inside and locked the door. An hour later, my mother has me take the dogs out with her. She's been sick for the past few days. The second the door was open, the dogs shot off the porch. At first I thought they just went after rabbits. My rat terrier wouldn't have run off the porch like that if it was anything bigger. So I walked off the porch to get a better look, when I see my husky mix bolt from one side of the field to the other. Then he went quiet. I got closer, and I thought I saw him coming to the bridge over the creek and called out to him. Then I saw him run back in the other direction and hop the creek, while whatever I thought was him turned around and walked off. Then I came inside, and now here I am. I'll be the first person to say that I sound paranoid. I just reread everything I typed, and I personally still think that's the case. But I'm getting to the point where I can't keep believing that. I'm starting to get more and more scared every time I walk outside. I've been getting this weird feeling every time something happens, before and or after it does. Please help me. Update. I saw it clearly this time. Motherfucker was right in front of me. I just recently got into painting models for Warhammer, and I was sitting at my desk, and I heard a thunder outside, and I opened the blinds of the window that my desk faces, and it was right there, staring me down. The second I jumped back, it fucking ran. It was massive. It looked like it'd tear me in half, dark fur almost all over, and its face looked almost human. Keyword, almost. Motherfucker had teeth like broken metal, jagged and sharp. Everything below the eyes was off, like someone had slapped a rubber mask on its face. But the eyes, oh god, the eyes, pitch black all around. It was like they were vacant. I don't know what it was. Like it was just staring off at something. It looked like it had long hair, but it could have just been the blur from when it ran. Number 3. The story I'm about to tell you happened a few months ago. It still chills me to the bone. Never would I have thought something like this could happen to me, but yet it did. I turned on the TV and walked into the kitchen. The microwave started beeping, meaning my bag of popcorn was done cooking. I took it out, grabbed the butter from the counter, and poured it on. The butter sizzled down, the kernels to the bottom of the bag, and I went over to the couch and I sat down. The TV was turned into a breaking news report. Hundreds of dogs from all around Ukiah, New Mexico, seem to have suddenly gone missing. The Nevada Department of Conservation and Natural Resources say they are looking into why these appearances are occurring. More on this at 12, said the newscaster. After hearing this, I threw my large bowl of uneaten popcorn in the trash and decided to go to bed. It was getting pretty late and I had a meeting early in the morning. I went upstairs and into my room. My dog Laika, a large golden retriever, was laying on the ground. She looked up at me with sad doggy eyes before dropping her head down onto the carpet. "Hey buddy," I said, "what's the matter?" Of course, my dog just lay there, aimlessly, staring at the wall. I shrugged and went into the bathroom to get ready for bed. I hopped in a quick shower, brushed my teeth, climbed in bed. Staring up at the ceiling, I emptied my mind and drifted off to sleep. Boom, boom, boom. The loud pounding on the door jolted me awake. I shot upright and looked over at the clock. 3:33 a.m. "God damn it," I muttered, as I pulled the covers off me, and I looked over at the floor where Laika was laying, only to see it now vacant. I sighed and walked out the open door into the hallway. It was dark, and not because there were no lights on. Something felt off. The air felt thicker, no, heavier than normal. I rounded the corners of the stairs when I was abruptly hit with this awful smell. It smelled like rotten meat. I pulled my shirt up over my face to cover my nose, but I could still smell it. I walked down the stairs and looked around for Laika, but she was nowhere to be seen. Confused, I walked over to open the large front door. Just as I was about to open it, something stopped me. I felt a chill run from the back of my neck all the way down to my spine. I shuddered and opened the door. There was nobody there. I looked around my empty front yard. Then I stepped out, scanned the tree line in the back of the yard, and there was nothing out there. Slowly I closed the front door and stepped back inside. As I turned around, I was surprised to see Laika suddenly standing at the door. I leaned down to pet her, but stopped. There was something off about her. I couldn't tell what it was at first, but then I started to notice her ears were standing straight up, which she never does. Drool and slobber poured from her open mouth, which revealed her jagged, pointed teeth, which appeared sharper than normal. I looked at her eyes. Something wasn't right about them. They looked dark and empty, but most noticeably, they looked human. She began to bark, and I stepped back. Tripping, I fell onto the ground and scurried backwards. Her bark echoed through the house. It sounded off, almost as if it was her bark, but at the same time, there was a deeper sound to it as well. Something not natural, something demonic. Suddenly, her head snapped sharply left and she looked at me. She looked right at me with those black, lifeless eyes. Then, just as soon as she appeared, like it was gone. She stood up, looked at the door, then back at me, before wandering down the hall towards the kitchen. Terrified, I ran upstairs and closed the door. I walked past Laika, now laying on the floor of my room, and got back in bed and went to sleep. It wasn't until I started to drift off to sleep when I realised I had seen Laika go down the hall, not into my room. Whatever I'd seen downstairs was not my dog, it was something else entirely. Flash forward 6 months. One of my clients, a Dr. Ashkey Dingen, who was a Native American man from the local Navajo tribe, came into my work one Monday afternoon. Before we had started talking business, I had him introduce himself to me and tell me a few stories about himself. One of the stories he told me caught my attention. He told a story about an encounter he had with a tribal creature known as a skinwalker. He said that these creatures, skinwalkers, were evil creatures summoned by Navajo witches that had the ability to transform into any animal they please. He also described the awful, wretched odor they gave off. I was shocked. Now, positive that I had an encounter with a skinwalker, that one fateful night I jumped back from my desk, running to the bathroom. I had no clue what to do. Until this point, I'd just been told my whole life monsters weren't real. Now I know that that's not true. Monsters are real, and all you have to do is know where to look. Number 4. Last night, around 1 a.m, I was about to go to sleep when I heard this weird sound. It sounds like someone yelling, "Hey!" in a weird, ominous voice. I figured it must be one of my neighbours maybe yelling at someone. I'm not sure. So I try and go back to bed and I hear it again, but it sounds exactly the same. The tone didn't change or anything. So I'm creeped out at this point because I've seen so many videos of skinwalkers, but it eventually stops. Tonight I go outside and get in my car and I hear it again. It was the exact same tone, sound, everything. When I tell you it sounded identical, it truly did. So now, writing this, freaking out, and trying to convince myself it was an animal. Does anyone know of any animal that makes a "hey" sound? As if a woman with a deeper voice was yelling. Please help. Number 5. I was on assignment from the army, making my way up from San Antonio, Texas to Tacoma, Washington. It was a long drive, and they gave me 6 days to report to my unit, but I didn't mind. I love road trips. There's nothing like the freedom of exploring the world by yourself. The first day of my journey, I planned to get as much driving in as possible, so I could spend the next few days in Utah, a sort of mini vacation you could say. This was January, and the days were short, so maximizing the amount of daylight I had was crucial. I got up extra early that morning and carried the last of my bags out of my Corolla, signed out of my old unit, and hit the road at roughly 5 a.m. It was an amazing day. I saw the landscape transform around me as I headed farther west than I ever been in my whole life. From San Antonio metropolitan area to the savannas of the Edwards Plateau to the pancake flat farmland of the Great Plains region, America's breadbasket. Finally, the farms opened up into prairie and I saw the "Welcome to New Mexico, Land of Enrichment" sign. Now I was really in the middle of nowhere. Continuing on the US Route 380, I eventually found myself in Roswell. I could have gotten a few more hours of driving in and made it to Albuquerque, but I figured since I was in no rush, I might as well see what Roswell had to offer. Who knows if I'd ever get the chance to visit again? As a fan of the strange, dark and mysterious, as Mr. Ballin would say, I took a self-guided tour of the shops and attractions. The next day I continued to Albuquerque, the westward on Interstate 40. By the time I'd reached Gallup and started northbound on US Route 491, I still had 2 hours of driving left before crossing the border into Colorado, and another 45 minutes before I would get to Cortez. My plan stopped for the night. However, my daylight was already running out, and as sunset was at 6 p.m. I got Starbucks and refreshed myself for the final stretch. It was supposed to be easy, just a straight shot, but looking back on it now, I figured that had I decided to stop in Albuquerque instead of Roswell the previous night, I would have already been in Colorado by now, and possibly making my way into Utah. I would have saved myself from what was waiting for me on that desolate highway. Route 491 stretched far into the Navajo Nation. On either side of me were endless expanse of prairie, bookended by dark indigo mountains on the horizon. To my left the sky glowed a faint orange-purple, the light slowly dying down like smouldering embers in a fire, until finally plunging the land into darkness. Every now and then I would see the forlorn headlights of another car passing by, which gave me a bit of relief that I wasn't alone. I also had my road trip playlist on to keep me company, and call me ironic, but Hotel California was playing. After passing the small lonely town of Newcomb, the next piece of civilization would be Shiprock. However, between the two was a 36-mile stretch of absolute nothingness, an abyss I had to cross. I was not ready for what I was about to witness. After several miles of having not seen another car on the road, I saw something strange emerge from the horizon. Barely lit by the moon, I thought at first it was a road sign. Then as I came closer I realized it was a person, walking on the shoulder of the road, heading in my direction. I squinted, trying my hardest to focus on the figure. In the darkness I could tell they were wearing a poncho of sorts, with long black hair flowing down past their chest. Who could be out here walking all alone at night, I thought. Whoever it was, they had no lights, no reflectors, no strobes of any kind to signal passing cars that they were there, and they walked on the pavement, dangerously close to oncoming traffic. I pulled to the left a bit, giving them a wide berth. Suddenly my stereo cut out, as if it had been turned off. The screen went completely dark, and my phone disconnected from Bluetooth. While this was unusual, it certainly did happen from time to time, so I thought nothing of it. As I approached, I saw the person raise their arm, as if to flag me down on Hitch a Ride. Oh no, I thought. There's no way that's happening, buddy. As my headlights swept by, I realized it was a man, dressed in a button-up shirt, a wool poncho, jeans, and a cowboy boots. His large belt buckle glinted as the lights passed him. But in that split second, I realized with abject shock that not only were his eyes painfully wide, but they seemed to be tracking me. Somehow, he was able to see me through the glare of the headlights and look me dead in the eyes, not breaking eye contact until I passed. I was shaken for a bit, but my nerves gradually subsided. My stereo abruptly turned on, and my music continued playing. I brushed everything off as simply my imagination, the darkness and the shadows playing tricks on my mind. Besides, the man was behind me. I figured he must have been drunk. Indian reservations sadly have a high rate of alcoholism. I looked in my rearview mirror. He was gone. I couldn't see him. Maybe he's too far behind me. No, that couldn't be. It must be too dark. Maybe. I drove on, trying to figure out what had just happened, but at the same time, forcing myself not to think about it. Just when I thought I'd moved on, I saw another shape in the distance, getting closer, and I realized it was another figure. Another person walking alone at night? There's no way. They walked along the shoulder of the road, swaying back and forth. Slowly I could make out that this person was also wearing a poncho. Then I saw what he looked like. Black hair, reaching down past the chest. There's no way. It was the man. The same man. But how? The man raised his arm again, trying to flag me down. What did this guy want? I kept up my pace, with no intention of stopping for any reason. Just like last time, my stereo turned off again. Suddenly, the man leapt out onto the road, arms waving frantically. I swerved into the left lane, narrowly avoiding him. In my headlights, I noticed he had the same wide-eyed look, his gaze locked onto mine. I also saw that his clothes did not look like they did in the first encounter. They were clean, if not well worn, but now they were soiled, tattered, rags barely hanging onto his withered frame. His hair was wild and unkempt, with clods of dried dirt sticking in the locks, but his eyes remained the same. My heart nearly burst through my chest at the sudden shock. Hyperventilating, I slowed down and glanced in the rearview mirror to make sure he was alright, but nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to see. The man was running. He was sprinting towards me. I centered the wheel and accelerated, hoping to get as much distance from him as possible. But as I continued to speed up, so did he. Faster and faster I drove, but every time I looked in the mirror, I would still see him right behind me, perfectly keeping pace, his body tinted red by my taillights. I could feel my temples throbbing, my hands getting slick with sweat on the steering wheel. I was sick to my stomach. There was no way. I looked forward, hoping to see a faint glimmer of light from the town ahead, but I was still too far away. When I looked back in the rearview mirror, the man was gone. I should have been relieved, but I knew better. Where did he go? I looked around, hoping to regain a visual on him, but I couldn't see anything. Taking a deep breath, I refocused on the road, but kept my guard up. Just keep driving, I told myself. Only a few more miles to go. Out of the corner of my right eye, I saw something. Another shape. It wasn't a man, at least I didn't think so. I glanced over, bracing myself for whatever was going to meet my sight. It looked like an animal. Some kind of animal, though I couldn't make out exactly what it was. Under the moonlight, I could see it running alongside my car, its forelimbs reaching out in long strides, its back undulating like a dog. Closer and closer it came. The closer it was, the more of it I could see, little by little. Then I noticed. Its limbs were far too long for its body. Its body was too short. It had no tail. The head was oddly round, and from it came a trail of long black hair. I slammed my foot on the gas, pushing my car's engine harder than ever been pushed before. By now I was clocking well over 110 miles per hour, but this creature, it kept up. It wasn't phased. It simply ran faster and faster to match my speed. Just what was this thing? How could anyone or anything run this fast? The entity seemed to have endless stamina. Just how long could it keep this up? Just how much faster could it go? Soon my car would hit its top speed, and then what? How long could it maintain it before breaking down? It wouldn't be long until my engine overheats, but regardless, I would eventually run out of gas. And when I do, what would happen if that thing got me? At 120 miles per hour, my car had reached its limit. This was the fastest I could go. But the creature continued its pursuit. My temperature gauge was approaching the red, and so was my tachometer. I couldn't keep this up any longer. Suddenly, like a beacon of the lighthouse on the tumultuous sea, the first light of Shipwreck came into view. It was close, so close. If I could just go a little longer, I could make it into town, to safety. I pressed on. I fixed my eyes on the lights, growing brighter and brighter on the horizon. They bloomed outwards, glimmering in the night air. Though it was a small town, it was a sight for sore eyes in my situation. Looking in my periphery, I saw the undulating of the creature's spine as it kept pace with my car, but now it was slipping away, steering farther and farther from the road. It suddenly hit me, just how hard my heart was beating. Beads of sweat dripped down my face. I looked over. The creature was gone. But this time, the feeling of dread had gone with it. My stereo once again turned back on, and my music resumed. I had a deep sigh of relief, and let my foot off the accelerator. The man, the creature, whatever it was finally gone for good. Having white-knuckled the steering wheel the whole time without realising it, my hands were extremely sore, but I was glad to have made it through. A week later, I told another soldier in my unit about what I had experienced. Being originally from Albuquerque, she was familiar with the native legends of the Southwest. The conversation steered toward a certain creature that she would not dare speak the name of. She also told me that the highway I took was well known for all sorts of paranormal phenomena. Google what Route 491 used to be called, and everything will make sense. Be careful out there.